Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Felicia and I'm glad that you're here. Today I'm going to talk about my first international trip to Scotland, some mistakes that I made, some things I've got right, and some lessons I've learned since then. I'm glad you're here. Let's get going. My first travel mistake was carrying too large of a suitcase. My suitcase was like 30 inches and it weighed at least 50 pounds. So I realized when I had to lug it from the reception in my hotel down a hallway, up some stairs, around a corner, and to my door that I definitely had brought too much. My second travel mistake is not understanding the money conversion. So when I got to that first hotel and I flew into London, so I got there in London, I took a cab to my hotel and my taxi driver got my big old suitcase out and set it down beside the car and I gave him a tip. I thought, well, I'll go ahead and tip him. He's going to expect me to carry my suitcase in. So I gave him 10 pounds. Well, he looked at it, thanked me, grabbed my suitcase, carried it all the way inside, and dropped it at reception. That's when I realized I probably had tipped him too much. My third travel mistake is learning how to make phone calls, international phone calls. So, the first couple of days when I was in London, I decided to call my family back home, and I spent about 20 minutes on the phone. When I got off the phone and I checked out a few days later, I realized, wow, $80 phone bill. I guess I didn't understand how to make an international call. Some things that I got right on my trip was picking the right tour company. So it was my first trip. I was going solo and I decided to go with group travel. I picked the travel company Trafalgar after lots of research, and it was a wonderful company. My itinerary was great, and my tour director was awesome. My second thing I got right was that I was friendly. I introduced myself to other people. I didn't know anyone on the tour, and I wanted some other people that could share my experience and I could have dinner with if that's what I wanted to do. My third thing that I did right was that I took lots of pictures. I got wonderful memories of my time in Scotland. And so taking all those pictures and short videos was absolutely a thing that I did right. Some lessons I've learned since then in the 20 years that I've been traveling both in the US and internationally is number one, try to travel during shoulder season if at all possible, because the shoulder season is going to be cheaper. And it's usually the 2 months before high season and the 2 months after high season, so it's still gonna that's kind of the sweet spot. So it's still gonna be the temperature, the weather's gonna be good, but it's gonna be a little less crowded and a little less expensive. My second thing that lessons that I've learned is use carry-on suitcase. So after that trip with the huge suitcase, I now travel with either a 20-inch or a 21-inch suitcase along with a backpack. And it is so much easier on planes, trains, buses, down long hallways to your room, all of those things. It makes it a whole lot easier. The next thing that I have learned is allow time for jet lag. So I now go a couple of days early, 1 to 2 days at least, just to adjust to the time difference. Not to hit the ground running, but just to give myself time to adjust. The next thing that lesson that I've learned is build in downtime into your schedule. So that might mean missing out on an excursion if you're traveling with a group, or it might mean adding some extra days into your itinerary where you just have days that you can chill out instead of go 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 all the time. does help a lot. The next thing that I have learned is purchase travel insurance. In the last 2 years, I have had two instances that I've had to get my money back. I broke my foot on a cruise and I missed a flight. My flight was canceled. I had to book another hotel room. I missed a tour. So there was several instances. So both of those times I was grateful that I had travel insurance. The next thing that I've learned is that I always arrive with cash to my destination. I go to the bank before I leave. I get a little bit of cash. So when I get there, I can get a snack. I can get a train ticket. I can pay for the cab ride, all of those things. So, yes, it is a small cost for my bank to get that, but it's totally worth it for me. And then while I'm there, I could use my debit card at the ATM to get out more cash. The next thing that I've learned is to allow 2 to 3 hours for international connections. I learned this the hard way a few years ago when I was traveling from Nashville to London and then from London to Dublin. So when I got into London and you go through passport control and all the things, and the airport there is really big. So I had a 2 hour connection time, but my first flight was 30 minutes late. My gate was in a whole different terminal, and by the time I got there, I would have missed my connection if it hadn't been delayed also. So now I build in 2 to 3 hours minimum if I have an international connection to make. The eighth thing that I've learned is take a picture of your hotel before you go out exploring. I also learned this the hard way in Italy. I was actually on another group tour, and the driver let us out at a hotel. I glanced up at the hotel. It was in a small town in Italy. And then I immediately set off walking around with some of the other members on my tour. We got separated after about 45 minutes or an hour, and I thought, no problem, I can figure out how to get back to my hotel. Well, I wandered around like 45 minutes, and I finally found some of my members from my group who told me that my hotel was directly across the street from where I was. So I learned that I definitely need to take a picture when I get there before I go out exploring. The next thing I learned is to buy good shoes. Your feet will thank you. And at least have two pair of shoes. I usually travel with only two pair, either two pair of tennis shoes or a pair of walking sandals and a pair of tennis shoes. So definitely make sure you break them in before you go on your trip and get comfortable shoes. The next thing I've learned is to just go. Don't wait for other people to go with you because you may never get to travel if you wait. So just go. What would you do differently if you had a trip that you wanted to redo? Leave a message in the comments for me, and please like and subscribe and follow me along for more tips and more trips. See you later.